Go ahead, Bill.
So are we doing the meditation now?
Whatever you'd like to do. It's your
Okay,
service.
First, we'll have the meditation and then that will lead us into the message or talk, okay? So I'm doing something, first of all, I have to set up this music, what I'm gonna have in the background. It's called Forest Song. And so I'm gonna set that up. I played this music, I had this music when I was in Virginia as backup. Sometimes we would have recorded music for backup there. So let me set it up. Hold on one second. Okay. So here we go. Invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Allow the music of the flute and the feeling of being in nature, allow that to help us calm down and be still so that we can feel the deep subtlety of presence of God. Just breathe, take a few moments just to inhale and exhale as if your heart could breathe at the center of your chest, your spiritual heart. You can inhale and exhale as your breath flows naturally, as if your heart could breathe. Calming, relaxing the heart, body, mind. So as you inhale and exhale, following your natural rhythm of breathing, inhale love, and exhale light, inhaling from all directions, exhaling out to all directions, inhaling love, exhaling light. And just let go of the affirmation now. Just feel the presence of love. Imagine what it would be like to be loved unconditionally. Feel, not just imagine, feel what it would be like to be loved unconditionally. And know that you are loved unconditionally. Feel that you are loved unconditionally. Affirm silently, I am loved unconditionally. And then affirm, I am unconditional love. And I would ask you now to consider anyone in your life you are praying for. And you are unconditional love. Let your unconditional love shine out toward these with whom you pray, for whom you pray. Let the unconditional love in you recognize the unconditional love in them. And know that we are one in unconditional love. We are healed, we are whole, well and free in unconditional love. Feeling this unconditional love. Feel this completion, this fulfillment that love is. Unconditional love. No separation. This is the spiritual truth. We are never separate. We are always at one in spirit. Always at one in unconditional love. So release all of your friends with whom you pray, for whom you pray. Release them into the light of unconditional love as you release yourself into the light of unconditional love. The feeling, the experience of unconditional love. Into the freedom of unconditional love. Feel the freedom. Give thanks. Feel yourself yourself sitting where you are in the chair or couch, just giving thanks. There were always at one with the God that is infinite love. And that God dwells in us, goes with us wherever we go. We're never separate from this unconditional love that God is and for us as us. Feeling this gratitude, that's all I'll say. Just affirm. Thank you, God. Blessing of unconditional love in my life, in our lives. We're so grateful. Amen. So how was that? Was the music too loud or was it the right volume level? Okay. Was okay? Gloria says no. Too high? Well, Neil and I tried to figure out the right volume level. I think it was a little high. So hopefully it didn't distract you from your experience. So now onward to the lesson today, the talk. Okay, originally you had received a message indicating that from Neil that the talk was called Feel the Fulfilling Feeling. Well, it was changed as time went on for me prepping this week to feel the feeling of completion, which was reflected in the meditation today. Feeling this completion, specifically today, focusing on feeling complete in this unconditional love. Of course, we have many different ways in which we can feel complete. We can feel complete in so many different ways, experiences we have in our relationships, in various levels of awareness, fulfillments of goals or purposes, just being in the moment. So today's talk begins with the first of two personal experiences which illustrate a significant spiritual principle of how things manifest from the mind into this world, into our worldly experience. In high school, I played varsity basketball. I'm kind of a tall guy. Some of you know that. During a significant game in my senior year, I was feeling a lot of emotion because we were playing a rival school that I had recently transferred from. You see, I had gone to that school from kindergarten to 10th grade before moving away close by to a school that was our rivals. So therefore, I was known as Benedict Bill because I was on this rival school. You know, it's high school, right? You have to understand, high school. And now I was facing my old mates, some of which I grew up with, and I grew up with all of them, and was feeling a lot of intensity. Actually, I played them 4 different times for over 2 years, junior and senior year. This was the senior year. It's a very important game. I felt so much intensity, I almost fouled out during the first half. A certain number of fouls are allowed in basketball. If you have too many fouls, you foul out and can't play anymore. Well, if I had made one more foul, I would have fouled out in the first half. So coach sat me down on the bench, and almost the whole second half, I sat on the bench. I knew that the coach would not put me back in the game unless the team needed me at the end of the game. And that's exactly what eventually happened. As the second half proceeded, there was nothing I could do but watch and cheer on my teammates. It was like I became a witness or an observer of the game. I felt like I was in a dream. All of a sudden, a deep, intense feeling came over me to make the shot to win the game for our team. It just came over me. There was no doubt in my mind, in my feeling about making it. And this feeling kept repeating in my mind. over and over again. Because I'm sitting there in the game as this is happening, as the game comes to getting closer to the end. The score was very close. The lead kept changing hands back and forth. So coach made a timeout with less than a minute left in the game. Our team was behind by 1 point. Then coach said to me, "Wilson, you're in." That's my last name. So I checked into the game at the scorers table and went into the game. All the while I kept feeling this feeling of making the winning shot. No doubt in my mind. Then the first time I received the ball on our team side of the court, I was pretty far away from the basket, outside the key. You know, the key is the round area where you shoot foul shots. Well, I was outside of the key. I just took the shot. And I could feel coach saying, "Wilson, what are you doing?" It's like, it's really far way out. And it banked off the backboard and went in. A few seconds later, the game was over and we won. Yay! Okay, so you may be wondering what spiritual principle of manifestation relates to the story. Well, it's a teaching from Jesus. And I'm going to post it now for you. Just give me a second here. It's from the book of Mark, as you can see, chapter 11. I can guarantee, this is what Jesus is saying. I can guarantee now he's saying, this is what will be done for someone who doesn't doubt, but believes what he says will happen. He can say to this mountain, be uprooted and thrown into the sea, and it will be done for him. That's why I tell you to, and I have it in italics, have faith that you have already received whatever you pray for, and it will be yours. Have faith that you already have received whatever you pray for, and it will be yours. In the game, I felt no doubt about making that basket, and it happened. This is an unfailing principle. If our faith is strong, if our feeling conviction, which is faith, is strong. Deep faith is deep feeling. Please bear with me. When I put these screen shares up, it takes me a second to get it done. This teaching of Jesus is also substantiated in mysticism. Metaphysician Neville Goddard, maybe you know him as Neville, wrote about it in his book called Feeling is the Secret. And he wrote, quote, "The conscious mind generates ideas and impresses these ideas on the subconscious," sort of like making a photo imprint on a photo paper from a negative. The subconscious receives ideas, this impression, and gives form and expression to them. The subconscious does not originate ideas, but accepts as true those which the conscious mind feels to be true, and in a way known only to itself, objectifies those accepted ideas. So the subconscious, in a way only known to itself, objectifies the accepted ideas, objectifies them into manifestation. Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling, Neville says. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt. But once felt, be it good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed. Feeling is the one and only medium through which these ideas are conveyed to the subconscious. So in the basketball story, I shared the strong and faithful feeling I had about making the basket impressed the subconscious, and that impression expressed in the outer. Now I'm going to share a second personal story where this principle proved true again. Now this is even much more profound than a basketball story. Okay, so it tells you how it was that I eventually became a Unity minister. It all started when I was living in Santa Cruz, California, with my wife. We're not married very well. We're not married very long. I had just had to receive a job where I was making very little money. My wife said very clearly, "Get a real job, man. Get a real job." So, because I want to have children, and you're going to make some more money than what you're making now. So I really prayed about it a lot and meditated on it, and I had remembered that I had done as a yoga student. I had taught yoga in San Quentin prison on death row for 2 or 3 years. And believe it or not, teaching yoga to inmates on death row, I would feel bliss when I left I would feel bliss when I left the prison. I couldn't understand why I would feel bliss after leaving the prison, because how can you feel bliss teaching murderers yoga? But I did, because it was what I was giving that was giving me that feeling. I was receiving what I was giving. I was being blessed by the offering of my gift. So I decided I want to be a minister, because a minister would be the closest thing to providing that service like I did at San Quentin. And I searched around, I found Unity, and I thought I would call Unity Village and ask them to allow me to be trained. So I called up, and the lady answered the phone. Her name was Gladys. She goes, "My name is Bill, and I would like to become a Unity minister." "Oh, great. How much experience do you have in Unity?" None. She says, "Yeah, well, no, that's not going to work. You have to have a lot of experience. But I want to be trained." "No." But you know what? I kept calling and calling and calling and calling, week after week, week after week, month after month. Similar to the story of the importunate widow, the persistent widow, who went to the judge. You know the story that Jesus tells. Went to the judge, and she wanted to be freed from. She wanted justice, and the judge wouldn't listen. But she persisted and persisted and persisted until finally the judge gave her what she wanted. So anyway, eventually she said, "Okay, we're going to let you have an interview," but believe me, it's not going to work. So Shakti and I, my wife and I, we put everything in storage, gave up our jobs, and started driving, and gave everything up with this absolutely no promise of this happening. In fact, the opposite. No one's promising anything. So we're driving across the desert from California to Kansas City. I'm reading feverishly Unity books, not trying to memorize. Of course, I'm not remembering anything, but it wasn't about the reading. It was about my intention. Like that I was feeling this deep feeling and of completion, that it was done, that I was going to get into school, that I was already in school, that deep feeling. And so I finally got to the place where it was in the morning of the interview in Kansas City. I flew out from Dallas up to Kansas City, got there for an early morning meeting on Groundhog's Day, 1979. So I go into a meeting, there's a room of a circle of 7 ministers, and I go in and I do the interview. And I'm telling you the truth. I was so internally on fire. I had so much feeling of presence in that meeting. I don't know if I've ever felt that much. I literally looked down one time and I thought I saw fire coming out of my chest. That much intensity. And then finished the meeting. Later on that day, one of the ministers said, they saw me in the bookstore at Unity Village, said, "Maybe there's a good chance you're going to be able to be accepted." But they told me I would have to wait a few months to find out. So finally I was accepted. I was down in Miami with my wife. And then I had to go, I was accepted in the training. I went to the training, And the first day of, there was a teacher who was teaching us, and she said, Bill, I want to talk to you after class today. She was one of the teachers who was in that circle of ministers. She said to me, Bill, when you came into that meeting, we looked at that, you had no experience in unity. Every one of us said, all of us, there is no way this guy is going to be accepted into school, into our training. He has no experience. And then she said, after the meeting, we all said, there is no way we are not going to accept him into training. Because that experience, that feeling of faith, that feeling of completion was so powerful. It was inexorable. It had to happen. Nothing could stop it. Like Jesus said, he said, if you do not doubt, you can move a mountain, just like in the daily word today. If you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. I mean, he means that literally, as well as figuratively. And that's kind of what it felt like. A mountain was moved for me to be accepted into ministerial school. So impressing ideas in the subconscious through the medium of inner feeling is the secret to making outer demonstrations. Impressing that subconscious with that image or that idea or that goal or dream or whatever it is that you want. We can cause dramatic results to happen. These results to happen, they happen unknowingly, or we can cause dramatic results to happen, for these results to happen unknowingly when we don't know the principle, or knowingly when we do. So in the two personal stories I shared today, even though I didn't know the principle, results occurred anyway. But that's random. Why not consciously and intentionally apply this prosperity principle, our teaching from Jesus, to manifest our dreams, our goals, and our objectives? Remember again the essential words of Jesus. Have faith that you have already received whatever you pray for, and it will be yours. I'll be honest with you. I have struggled remembering this passage because I couldn't feel the words the way it was written. And I prayed to get to a simple way of putting these words into feeling so I could feel these words. So I'm going to share now another screen share with you. Sort of a three-part share here. Can everybody see that okay? Okay. On the second line, I tried to make it into an affirmation. I feel that I have already received whatever I prayed for, my desire, my dream, my objective, and it is mine. But it still didn't quite have the feeling I was looking for. It was still a little bit too complicated. Then it came to me in other words how I could express this truth simply, so I could remember it, and that my heart would be open to deeply feel it, and therefore demonstrate this principle. And here it's written there. I feel the feeling of completion. Imagining that your dream, your goal, your objective has already been fulfilled. Affirm, I feel the feeling of completion. Effective affirmations are always phrased in present tense in metaphysics. You ever known that? You don't affirm something for the future, although the mind wants to. The future doesn't exist. What only exists is now, and the subconscious only accepts what's true now. Otherwise, it doesn't acknowledge it. Neville said, to feel I will be is to confess I am not. Let's see it again. To feel I will be is to confess I am not, according to the subconscious. The subconscious knows I will be is in the future, and therefore you do not have it already. Also, praying to feel the feeling of completion is different than to pray to act as if. You probably heard act as if. Well, to act as if or feel as if assumes that you don't have it either. You are acting like you have it, but it's an act. And your subconscious knows it's an act. Your subconscious, you don't have it and won't likely to manifest it. So when I first read over Neville's book, Feeling is a Secret, I was enthralled with Neville's teachings. I knew that they were true. However, I also read reservations. I was concerned about applying this prosperity principle because I'll be honest with you. Encouraging to focus only on the manifestation or accumulation of worldly trinkets is very limiting. Sometimes our desires, goals, and objectives are necessary to pursue, no doubt. You know when you want it, it's necessary. And sometimes, well, we're not quite sure. The materialist suffers because he or she falsely thinks outer things are his security. Yet he also knows that they can be gone in a flash. After all, remember the old adage, you can't take it with you. That's true, of course, unless you are George. George. This is one of my favorite cartoons by Gary Larson, okay? I want to share you this cartoon with you now. George is taking it with him. It's Gary Larson. That's one of my favorite cartoons. I mean, look at the piano, the TV, the golf cart, even this dog. He's taking it with him, man. Only George can do that. Nobody else can do it but George. And of course, what was it? Will, what's his name? The only thing we ever learned, the only thing I believe is what I read in the newspaper. Well, this isn't a newspaper, believe it. Only George can do it. George. Nothing like a little humor, right, Neil? Yeah. So, unlike the materialist, the spiritually secure person knows that the consciousness of God is our unchanging and unending source of security. Okay, then how do we know what we are to seek? If we're not quite sure, well, what should I seek? How should I use this principle? I don't want to be, seeking trinkets. I want to maybe seek the kingdom of God, or what is it? So it's good to ask a question if you don't know what to seek. Ask, what is it? What is God's will for me to seek? Or what wants to come through in my life? Or what's on deck? What would you have me do? Who would you have me serve? I think that's from the Course in Miracles, right, Bob? What would you have me do? How would you have me serve? Once we know what our goal is, then we can affirm, I feel the feeling of completion and feel it like it's done. It's done now. For example, right now, my old 2002 Dodge Caravan is in hospice. It's ready to go. It already had one tranny replaced, and now it's starting to go. And guess what? I ain't going to put a second rebuilt tranny into that 2002 Caravan. It's time for a new car, or at least a new used car, right? And I know it's time, but it's still running. It's still running. I hear the noise of the grinding transmission. It's going to stop any minute, right? I know it's meant to be for me to have a new car. My wife has her own car. This is the one I have. And so I've been lately beginning the process of, we both talked about it, Shakti and I, about having a SUV, and it has enough head space and leg space for a big guy like me. So I go into stuff, I do in my contemplation, feeling the feeling of an SUV, having the right leg space, head space. I'm feeling that it's already mine. How long does it take for me to claim it? Depends on the depth of my faith, the depth of my feeling. The one thing I noticed, told the stories earlier about the basketball game and about the whole experience of what happened for me getting involved, getting accepted in ministerial school, and the meetings that occurred, is that there was a sense of urgency, an urgency. Whenever, you know, Jesus said that he talked about the importunate widow and said that this is how you pray, with this kind of urgency. There's a story about a person who he went to a master and said, I want to know God. When will I know that I'll know, when will I know God? And so he took the guy out into, you probably heard this story, out into a pond or a lake. And they were standing up there waist deep, took the guy's head and stuck it underwater and held it in there. And the guy couldn't even breathe. He was gasping for breath. He was holding him down, started to breathe in water. He let him up. And the guy was coughing out water, spitting out water. I said, why did you do that? You almost killed me. And the master said, when you want God like you wanted air, then you'll know God. When you have that kind of urgency to know, your prayers will be answered. And I had that kind of urgency in the basketball game. I had that urgency and when I went to ministerial school. I don't have that urgency yet with the Dodge Caravan. I mean, with the new SUV. I don't have that urgency yet. But when I tell you what, when the Caravan stops, there'll be more urgency. I'll need it more, right? And so this a lot has to do with the fulfillment of our goals. Have this sense of, not that there should be anxiety. Sometimes there can be a depth of peace. It's a depth issue, a depth of feeling. Sometimes it's a deep feeling of peace that allows for the manifestation to occur. Sometimes it's an urgency. Whatever, it's about depth. Neville says, instead of forcing any feeling, instead of trying to force any outcome, surrender or entirely release to the state of the ideal fulfilled. Surrender the urgency. Feeling is the secret here, as Neville has iterated over and over in his book. The secret of feeling is that deep feeling within manifests in the outer. Whenever you pray, feel the feeling of completion of the prayer as you pray it, as if it, not as if, knowing it already is done, here and now, open to it, and grow for it, in it, and through it. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know what my old friend Joe Miller used to say, you get more
I'll be down
stinking from
at
thinking.
least 2 minutes. I have to finish this.
I said, my old friend Joe Miller used to say, you get more stinking from thinking than you can from drinking, but to feel is for real. To feel the presence, feel it, know it, and then the truth comes and we experience it, and we are and know that we are it. Anyway, enough of my blabbing. Thank you.